Hi, my name is Meg Vanderbilt, and I am back here at Bit of Hope Ranch today, and you can see that we have a nice little blanket of snow this morning, but the snow is not our major concern. The major concern is our temperature is pretty cold and got pretty cold last night along with a stiff breeze. So this video I'm going to be sharing about what we do to keep horses warm, and that is whether to blanket or to not blanket. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. Of our therapy horses. She is a 21-ish year old quarter horse, and you can tell she has a pretty good coat on her, lots of long hair under here as well as an undercoat. So normally when horses get cold, they have the ability to have their hair stand up at dozens of different angles, and that's how they regulate how much heat is trapped in their body. So if it's really warm outside, you'll see their winter coat lying very flat, and that's so that the air, the loft in there, the warm air can escape. Otherwise, if it's really cold out, what you'll find is their hair actually stands more straight up, and that fluffy undercoat underneath there stands up even taller because it's trying to trap as much of the warm air as possible. So the problem again comes like in our last storm is once that coat gets wet, it can't stand up anymore and it stays very flat. So again, it's not very insulating at that point. The other problem, if it's extremely windy, then they're still going to have a hard time keeping up with the wind chill in order to stay warm enough. So what a blanket does or a shelter does is it kind of gives them some more natural protection from the elements. But we have a lot of people ask, when do you blanket your horses? When is the correct temperature? I usually say there's not exactly one temperature for every horse. So you really need to know your horses. So Cookie is normally, she's pretty hardy. She's got some good weight on her. If she was thin and I knew she was going to be shivering to stay warm, she would obviously be wasting calories, and I would have to feed her more, so I don't want that. But I knew last night there was a stiff breeze. They had a potential of getting damp. Even though they have a shelter, they don't always stand in their shelter. So I wanted to make sure that she was definitely comfortable enough last night. So she has on today, this is a waterproof blanket. So even if she were to get out and it got in the rain or the snow, it is at least waterproof on top. She also has buckles in the chest here. This is how we take it off and on, and I'm just getting ready to take it off, so I've already partially undone one of the buckles here. There are two straps that go under her belly, and that holds it and keeps it from twisting. And then she has leg straps that goes behind her tail to keep the whole tail flap from coming up and over. So this blanket is very warm and cozy. It's got extra padding underneath here, so it's a pretty heavy, thick blanket. So what I would do is I would put my hand under here. I just want to check and make sure, number one, she's not sweating. And since it's 25 degrees this morning, that is certainly not the case. I would always want to make sure too that maybe the waterproofing, there's not a leak in it or a tear and she's gotten wet inside, but she doesn't. She feels nice, warm, and dry. And just like I expect, that blanket is making her hair lay down flat. So that is part of the decision to make, because once you put on a blanket, it does cause their hair to lie down flat, which goes against their body's natural way of making the hair stand up to keep them warm. So there's a horse person's dilemma, is trying to understand what type of protection that their horse is going to need in the cold temperature. So I encourage you not necessarily to look at the thermometer, but to look at all the elements of your environment to see if they have somewhere to get out of the rain and the wind. If you decide they need a blanket, you want to make sure that you have a blanket that fits and that is comfortable for the horse, and don't just turn them out and forget. You're going to need to check your leg straps. You're going to need to check the belly straps. You're going to need to be able to reach under here to make sure your horse isn't sweating. A horse sweating under a blanket is just as bad as a horse shivering without a blanket. So blankets do require more care, but there are times where your furry friend is going to need a little extra help. And in this case, I think Cookie was pretty grateful for it last night.